It's not a secret that social media is bad for our mental health. I'm not saying anything new here. I wanted to open up about my own personal experience as an individual consuming social media, but also as a business owner, more so as a business owner, as a creator, as someone who basically has built a business on social media, and the mental health struggles that I've struggled with throughout this process. First things first, comparison. Unfortunately, we as human beings compare ourselves to others to benchmark where we are in life, what we've achieved, what our lifestyle looks like, etc. And by comparing ourselves to other people on social media who share only the highlights, it's a highlight reel of their lives, it's curated narrative that they have decided, they have chosen to share these parts of their lives while not necessarily sharing other parts of their lives. And we compare that to our reality, to our entirety. We compare their front end, their storefront, to our back end, to our warehouse of issues and problems and our reality. And that is not healthy because those things should not be compared, but it's our instinct, unfortunately, to do that. So that is not very healthy, and of course we end up feeling inadequate because we don't see the problems that that person has. We don't see how that photo was taken and the potential fight that I don't know, that's what my mind goes to every time I see a perfect couple photo. The healthiest way to go about it is comparing yourself to yourself, and whether you can scroll down your own feed on social media or just journal, etc. Comparing yourself to yourself, that is fair game. Comparing yourself to others, especially on social media, no. The next thing is that we get addicted to our phones and we don't really exist and operate in reality. You've seen it so many times. People gather together for a meal and then they're sitting on their phones, just scrolling away. Why are you even together in this case? We miss the reality. We miss on the whatever is happening today with our lives. Like right now is the only moment there is. There isn't, there's a really, really great, wise Russian song that says there's only one moment between the past and the future, and this moment is life, So, but we're wasting that moment by being in this virtual reality and interacting with people that sometimes we don't even know. We get addicted to our phones, and I don't blame us because they're programmed to be addictive. Those companies hire professionals that know how our neurobiology works and create mechanisms that get us addicted. Like every time you see the likes coming in or comments or engagement, you get a dopamine rush, and it is addictive, just like drugs. And unfortunately, while as adults, we can potentially control that. It is very hard. We have to, sometimes physically delete those apps from our devices. But then children, if you think about it, children and teenagers who are much more susceptible to forming patterns without being aware how the technology is actually luring them in. It's a topic for a different conversation, but it is so scary, honestly, how addicted to our phones we are because of social media. Another thing that I think has an impact on our mental health, and I've definitely felt it myself, is the fact that the connections you have on social media are pretty superficial. There's an illusion of knowing in depth of what people's lives are like, but then at the same time, those connections are very superficial because you can only see what they're sharing. And what is your interaction with them? You like a photo, you say, yay, congratulations on your baby. Under a photo, you didn't really have a conversation with them. So it just creates this illusion of, the breadth of connections, but there's no depth. There's no depth of those relationships. They're superficial. And that may lead to us feeling alone when it actually comes to our reality and when it comes to, sharing real problems that we are going through on a day-to-day basis and finding someone who could support us, who could listen to us throughout them. It feels a little isolating when you are in that position and you've need someone to talk to, when you need the depth of the relationship as opposed to the superficial mass, if that makes sense. Finally, the last thing that I want to mention when it comes to your mental health as an individual social media consumer is the fact that we're constantly bombarded with different stimulation. Think about the last time you were in a queue, in a line for something. What did you do? Did you get on social media? Did you start scrolling? Probably, because that's normally what we do as humans. I do that all the time as well. But sometimes I catch myself and I just physically put my phone down. The reason for it is because psychologists say that it is good for us to be bored. It is good for us to have those moments of boredom because that creates space for creativity in our heads. And the fact that we're constantly bombarded with all of this information is not really good for us, not good for our creativity, productivity, blah, 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 blah. We're just overstimulated. And that is not healthy. And for that reason, and all of the reasons above, including the addiction to these devices, I've started putting my phone down and forgetting about it. And I pride myself on the moments when I actually leave my phone in a different room and a few hours later I realize that I've done that. I'm like, yeah, I'm free. Dobby is free. All right, who's ready for the can of worms that is being a creator on social media and running a business on social media? Now, some people will say, oh, influencer isn't a real job. It is. It is. If it was that easy, everybody would be doing it. And the fact that not everybody is getting there means that, there is... I'm speaking from experience. It takes time and effort and consistency and day in and day out to become someone to get to a point where you can start monetizing your following, to get to a point where you can make it a full-time job, even a part-time job. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes consistency. It's a job. If you want to prove me wrong, do it yourself, and then you will probably wake up and be like, oh, it's a job. But when you are a creator on social media, you are dependent on the algorithms. The social media platforms enable you to reach this audience, right? Enable you to have a relationship, a connection with all these people and build a community, which is wonderful. However, the way the algorithm works, it serves the needs of the company, the goals of the company, and a lot of the times it's financial goals, most of the times. And those financial goals are directly linked to the interests of shareholders. You are basically at the mercy of the shareholders and their interests, and the algorithm, it changes as you go along, which means that you constantly need to adapt. Nothing wrong with adapting. However, when your self-esteem is linked, unfortunately, to the number of likes, and it's very hard to separate those things. I'm really trying to do that. But, when your face is out there, the faces of your brand, it's essentially, your brand and you are essentially the same thing. It's very hard to separate those. And when your content that you put in so much thought, so much effort into, that people used to enjoy and that used to reach people, all of a sudden it doesn't reach people as much. I don't know, sometimes it breaks you. It's hard. It's hard on your self-esteem. It's hard on your sense of self-worth because you basically link those two things, your engagement and your self-worth. And that is a very, very dangerous game to play because you're not, there's an algorithm that you have to adapt to. And you are not defined by how well your posts perform, in the given state of the algorithm. It's just the truth. However, you seem to forget about it. At least I'm speaking from personal experience. If you're watching this and you have experienced the same thing, let me know in the comments. And let me know in the comments if any of the other stuff that I'm talking about is something that you have experienced as well. Because I feel like we need to continue having a conversation about this because we're not alone, right? And hearing other people's stories and seeing that you're not alone is so powerful, and it helps you make that distinction between you, your identity, and that social media world, social media reality, and the algorithm and how that changes to actually serve the needs of shareholders. Not because your audience doesn't like you anymore, not because your content is not worthy anymore. It's because the shareholders are taking another route. It has been tough, honestly, in the last few years as the algorithm was changing. I have been attaching my self-worth to those numbers and my business's self-worth and my potential, my business's potential, the impact that we were having. I tried to separate myself from the business because it's important, in my opinion, again, for my mental health. However, it has been very tough. And I'm not going to lie, ever since the rebrand happened, I've been really battling the algorithm because I assume the SEO isn't as established, and some of my posts were just not performing the way they did, before I changed the name from Coding Blonde to Stereotype Breakers. Now, the reason why I was scared to do that is because I was scared of exactly what is happening. That's the reason why it took me so long to rebrand. I've wanted to do it for so long. I don't regret it for a second. The only thing is that I'm just facing the reality of fighting the algorithm, which is also changing right now as we speak. It changes, I don't know how often it changes, right? It's changing all the time. But right now it is taking a clear direction towards trying to be TikTok. I'm talking about Instagram right now. I have beef with Instagram. YouTube, keep doing you. Let's push my videos a bit more, please. Thank you very much. But Instagram is the one that I have the most beef with because it's been the most inconsistent. And, I have been attaching my self-worth, and it's really, really hard to break that cycle. I really have to journal a lot. I really have to be telling myself that, to separate that, notion of self-worth and the numbers that I'm seeing on there, because the quality of my content has not decreased. I know that for sure. I know that for a fact. And in fact, it is increasing every single day. I'm getting better. Maybe there was some stagnation in 2020 because my mental health took a toll then. I'm not gonna lie. And it was a mix of social media stuff and also the fact that couldn't see my family, the pandemic, lots of different things. But now I know it is increasing, and I know that the numbers that I'm seeing don't represent the value that this content actually has. However, it's so hard to separate those two. Let me know in the comments if you have a similar experience with this kind of stuff, because I know I'm not alone. So yeah, it's exhausting. It's exhausting fighting the algorithm, constantly battling it and figuring it out. And that's why there's so many viral videos on we've figured out the algorithm, we've cracked the algorithm, what the algorithm's gonna be like in 2021. Nobody knows. Nobody knows, unless you work at that company and you actually are involved in setting the algorithm. I worked at YouTube. I did not know what the algorithm was like. A lot of people, I worked with YouTube creators, and a lot of people have asked me, what is the algorithm like? Tell me, what factors should I focus on? And I could tell them certain things, focus on your watch time, focus on, some factors like audience retention. But I didn't know how the algorithm actually worked. I still don't know. Had I known that, this channel would have millions of subscribers, right? But I'm at a mercy of the algorithm here. I'm at a mercy of the algorithm on other platforms, etc. And it's a constant battle, and it's exhausting. It is exhausting as a social media creators, and I know a lot of creators. I've just watched an awesome video by Chris Howell. I will link it in the description. He talks about the algorithm a lot, and I really respect his views on creativity and how, the algorithms, Instagram in particular, how that is shaping our creativity, which actually, let's make it our next point. Our creativity on platforms like Instagram is restricted to what is popular. And right now it's trying to be TikTok. And, it's really trying so hard. It's making us all kind of homogenous in terms of the content that we produce, right? Because certain types of content performs better on Instagram, and it's just a fact. And because we see that it performs better, we post more of it, and we post more of it, and we post more of it. I mean, there was a time when I realized, and this was years ago, that posts with my face on, with me in them, perform way better than any other post. So guess what? My feed became just pictures of me. Something that I decided last year that I want to break the cycle of. Because again, it goes to the fact that I want to separate myself from the brand, right? I don't want it to be just me. I don't want it to be me, And that was basically my perception of that. And also, there are other things I want to post. I don't want to be this like narcissistic whoever that just posts pictures of herself. However, they performed so much better. And as a social media creator whose main source of income is brand deals, if my content performs well, if my engagement is high, I can charge higher prices. And it's good for the business. And therefore, I'm not the only one. You saw almost everyone trying to, at least social media influencers, creators, their feeds flooded with photos of them. It wasn't photos of, like their surroundings, whatever. Most of the photos were them. And you can go on any page, unless the main content was like quotes or something like that. You will see that pictures of the person who runs the account will perform so much better than posts without those pictures. And it's crazy to me. It's insane. And so the algorithm is shaping the type of content that is posted on there, and therefore making us more homogenous and less creative, because we are all creating content that looks the same because it works better on the platform. Now, of course, there are other social media platforms. I just have beef with Instagram right now. And for a long time, I'm not gonna lie, I've had beef with Instagram for years now. Again, Chris Howe's video, I will link another video about the creativity. I feel like he puts it so well in that video. I didn't do it justice, didn't even begin doing it justice, but great video. If this is something that you're interested in, make sure you watch that video. And the final thing that I want to touch upon is the fact that you have to be always on. It is exhausting, but the way the algorithm is built is that you should be constantly interacting with your audience if you want to maintain the same level of engagement. The algorithm isn't built for creators to take days off, not even weekends. No, you have to be posting and interacting with your audience on a regular basis. Great. However, exhausting. Nobody should be working like with no days off. And okay, like you can let people in on your life and on whatever you're doing on weekends, but then what happened to privacy? What happened to, being able to live without your phone? This phone addiction is reinforced even further on this side. And if you take a couple of days off, you're punished by having lower engagement, by having less people, by the algorithm showing less people your content because they haven't interacted with your stuff in a while, etc. It's like a snowball effect. The more time you take off, the less engagement you will essentially get, which leads to burnout. Creator burnout is real, and I have felt it myself. And honestly, this has been one of the also major factors in the fact that I want to distance myself even further from my brand. Privacy, of course, but also I don't want to be constantly on. Eventually, I would want team members to post stories or maybe schedule stories. I'm sorry, but I don't need to be constantly bombarding people with content. And I don't need to show people what I'm doing on a weekend, etc. especially when my brand isn't about me, it's about breaking stereotypes and women in STEM and all of that good stuff. I wish there was a world where social media allowed creators to take time off, to rest, to re-energize, to, go on a vacation without constantly creating content, constantly being on their phones, with, for them to be able to enjoy their lives, enjoy their time. These creators are fueling these platforms, and they are creating content in return for, of course, exposure and business opportunities. Hello. But at the same time, they need to rest as well. They need to be able to have time off. And I wish social media algorithms allowed for that. Maybe there could be some type of, seasonality built into social media content. How your favorite TV shows have seasons, and the rest of the time the crew and the actors, they rest, and then they get back into work and they film the thing, and then they promote it, but it's cyclical, and they probably get some time off. I would assume so. At least I hope so. And so yeah, maybe there will be a world where that's the reality at some point. But yeah, I'm burnt out. I'm not gonna lie, from all of that algorithm fighting, and it's really tough separating my self-worth from the numbers I see there. I want to be brutally honest. It is hard. It is hard. So I'll keep on journaling about it. And in the recent days, I decided that it is time that I stopped paying attention to that number. Stopped looking at the analytics and just focused on creating much better, more engaging, more powerful, more educating content, and just forget about the algorithm. If it impacts just one person, I'll be happy. And of course, there's also an email list which I can use to spread the word about the content that I'm creating. So if you're not on our email list, the link is in the description. You know what to do. Sign up right now, and you will get our Women in STEM weekly newsletter, where we're working to expand it right now. And we share our content there, and we're working to expand it to make it even more useful. Again, if you have any feedback or ideas, suggestions, let me know in the comments, or you can respond directly to one of those emails and you will end up in our team's inbox. Thank you for watching this video. Let me know if you resonate with some of the stuff that I've mentioned in this video, and what are your experiences with social media and mental health? Is there anything else that I didn't mention? Because this is my experience. Your experience may be different, and I'm super curious to hear what it's been like for you. Social media is a wonderful tool. It can be used for good. A lot of people use it for good, but the algorithm is the slave of shareholders, which chase profits, and you know how that goes sometimes. Not really thinking about people again. Like this video if you've enjoyed it, dislike it if you didn't like it, share it with some people. Any engagement helps with the algorithm. We do care about the algorithm on YouTube. And if you've enjoyed this content, please interact with it, because it really helps with spreading the word about this message and other message. It helps support this channel. It helps support my business and my mission. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. Thank you. We can also be friends on other social media. You can find us as Stereotype Breakers. All the links are also in the description, so you can go and just press on them and find us directly. Have a wonderful time today you're currently experiencing. Bye.